Welcome to VHS Voyage, where we are on a journey to find, watch, and discuss movies on VHS we've never seen or never knew existed. I'm Matt.
I'm Devin.
In today's episode, we're going to talk about
Wonder Boys.
Normally, whenever we talk, or here recently when we talk about a movie, I usually go through the entire story because it's typically a bad movie that I don't care to spoil. I'm not going to do that with this movie because I do think that you should watch it and I don't want to spoil everything in the movie. So what we're going to do instead is we're just going to talk about certain scenes, a little bit of the story, the overall plot, certain characters, and things like that. Before we get into all that though, Devin, hit us with some facts and information.
So this is directed by Curtis Hanson. He's directed a lot of big movies like River Wild, LA Confidential, 8 Mile, one of my favorites.
Nice.
Chasing Mavericks. He did pass away in 2016 though. This is written by Steve Kloves. He wrote every Harry Potter except Order of the Phoenix. Now this is an adapted screenplay though, which it sounds like all the stuff Steve Kloves pretty much writes is adapted.
Interesting.
So he also wrote Amazing Spider-Man.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So IMDb.
Okay, IMDb, I'm going to say 8.
That's a little high. Not a lot of movies are like go past 8.
It's a good point. 7.5.
7.2.
Okay, 7.2.
Rotten Tomatoes critic and audience is available.
Critic, I'll say 77.
It's 81.
81, okay. And in audience, I'm going to say 70.
83. I might have those backwards.
That's close
I can't
enough.
tell from my notes, but I might have those two numbers backwards. It's 81 and 83 something.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Yeah, this stars Michael Douglas, Robert Downey Jr., Tobey Maguire, Katie Holmes, Frances McDormand, Rip Torn, and Alan Tudyk.
Quite the cast.
Yeah,
quite the
really
cast.
good cast.
That was a really young Alan Tudyk.
It was, yeah, it definitely was. Young Tobey Maguire too, because this is pre-Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
So this was nominated for 3 different Oscars: Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Film Editing, and Curtis Hanson asked Bob Dylan to make an original song for this movie, and that song was nominated for an Oscar.
Nice.
And this movie is just loaded with Bob Dylan. Pretty much every song is Bob Dylan music.
Yeah.
It's filmed in sequence. Not most movies aren't.
Interesting.
So this is filmed in sequence.
Nice.
Yeah, it didn't do super well at the box office, but how do you market a movie like this?
Yeah.
It's a tough movie to market because, like, what's your audience? Like middle-aged soccer moms? Like, like I said, if this would have came out maybe post Spider-Man, it probably would have made a lot more money.
Oh yeah.
But this is like 2 years pre-Spider-Man, a little bit before Katie Holmes blew up. Everybody else was already big.
So essentially, we have Michael Douglas is our main character in the movie. He is a washed-up writer who's also a college professor. His name is Grady. Got a lot of problems. He loves drugs and alcohol, pot, hydrocodone, alcohol. A lot of pot. He smokes a lot of pot. His wife is in the process of leaving him. His life is kind of in shambles a little bit. He had a successful novel that came out 7 years ago, and he's been working on a follow-up for the last 7 years. So his editor, played by Robert Downey Jr., his name is Terry Crabtree. He comes to town because there's some kind of like writer event called Word Fest. It's some kind of 3-day event for writers. He comes to town because he's also wanting to find, get progress on the book because he's the editor, and his job, he might be out of a job because he hasn't published a book or edited a book and published a book for the last 7 years. So the movie follows Grady, played by Michael Douglas, as he has just this wild, crazy weekend where pretty much everything goes wrong, and he kind of goes on this sort of adventure and gets caught up with a student of his named James, who is played by Tobey Maguire, and he's a very, very, very odd person, very, very strange person. So it kind of starts with Grady going to this dinner party of Sarah, who is the chancellor of the school, played by Frances McDormand, and you find out that they have a secret adulterous relationship going on because she's married to the head of the school, and of course Grady is married, but his wife is leaving him and everything. So they have a relationship. They're in love. Not only that, but she's also pregnant.
This morning.
I'm pregnant.
They're kind of shitty, aren't they?
They are kind of shitty, yeah.
It tries to make that seem likable, but is that very likable?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the movie does kind of explain that they both have bad marriages, but still, it is kind of shitty.
Well, to be fair, he's been divorced like 6 times. It literally establishes in the first 10 minutes he's been divorced like 6 times. He's got It sucks.
Yeah. So at this party, Grady goes out to smoke some pot, and he sees James, the student, kind of crouching in the bushes with a small gun in his hand. Yeah, he's like standing there.
He's like in this like overhang, and I'm just like, is that a killer?
Yeah.
I thought this movie. So I didn't really know like what this was about going into it. I'm like, oh, this is like a crime drama.
Yeah.
I thought this man was about to get murdered.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, what are you doing? Is that a gun? He's like, oh, it's not a real gun. It's a fake.
It's a cap gun, he said.
Yeah, it's just a cap gun.
It's fake. It was my mother's. She won it in a penny arcade in Baltimore when she went to Catholic school.
Well, that's very convincing.
So they have a discussion. You really start to see how odd James is. And Grady's like, hey, come in the house. I want to show you something. Takes him upstairs into Sarah's husband's room. He knows the combination to her husband's safe. He opens the safe, and it's got like a bunch of like movie props in it, but one of which is a coat that was worn by Marilyn Monroe on, I guess, her wedding day or something like that. And so James is absolutely blown away by this. Just, you know, he's moved to tears. He gets emotional about it. And then everybody starts to leave the party. They go downstairs, and the dog, there's an old blind pit bull who is Sarah and her husband's dog, doesn't like Grady very much, and he attacks Grady and starts biting him on the leg, bites him on the ankle area. And then James shows up, shoots the dog twice, and kills it. So it's not a fake gun, it's a real gun. Then they grab the dog's dead body, put it in their trunk, and then you find out that James stole the coat. And so it's just like one thing leads to another, and all these issues start piling up. I don't want to get into too much of the stuff that happens.
I get it. I love movies like this, though. Yeah. I like movies like this where just crazy things keep happening, and it kind of like gives you a little bit of anxiety, a little bit. This isn't like Uncut Gems or like After Hours or anything like that. But it's like just thing after thing after thing happens, and just building up to, you know, everything coming crashing together.
Yeah. So one thing I really like about this movie is there are a lot of really fun and interesting characters.
Oh yeah.
Grady himself, played by Michael Douglas, is a very complex character, as we've already established. He's got a lot of problems, a lot going on. His editor, played by Robert Downey Jr., is a weird guy. James, his student's kind of weird. He also has another student who lives with him, who's renting a room from him, played by Katie Holmes. Her name is Hannah, and she has the hots for him. This other writer named Q, who's played by Rip Torn, and he's just like this kind of like cocky, pretentious douche. Exactly. Yeah. He's like, because he puts out a book every 18 months, and he's
Stephen King.
Yeah, pretty much.
And Michael Douglas is George R.R. Martin.
That's a great freaking, yes, that is great. Obviously, with a cast like this, you know, it goes without saying the acting was great.
It's really good.
Yeah, really good acting, especially Tobey Maguire.
He steals the movie for me.
Yeah.
He's just like this psycho.
Yeah.
And he's weird. Mm-hmm. And he just has a lot of funny moments, especially when he's on drugs and alcohol.
Yes. Yeah. Because he ends up smoking pot with Grady. He ends up taking some hydros, washing it down with liquor. And they go into this like speech that Q is having at this Word Fest thing, and like in the middle of Q's speech, James is in the background and he just starts laughing.
To hear, what is the bridge from the water's edge of inspiration to the far shore of accomplishment?
Also, James, I don't know if this is spoiler, but he's like a pathological liar.
Yes.
Basically, because he's an author, or a wannabe author, romanticizes his life and like creates these fake stories that people believe and makes up stuff as he goes. It's almost like he's writing his life as he goes, which has turned him into like this pathological liar.
Yeah. Another scene that I liked. So you got Grady, Terry, and James. They're in a bar sitting at a table, all drinking alcohol, and they see this other man sitting at a table, and James is just out. He's just out. But Grady and Terry sit there and they like look at this man, and it's like they're trying to like write what his story is as a person.
That was cool.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Like I could just picture two writers actually doing that. Like if they're like going out somewhere and they just look people, they make these stories up. It's like a fun little game or something.
Yep, exactly. They even give the guy a name. Well, Vernon. They call him Vernon, don't they?
President of the James Brown Hair Club for Men. He's a boxer, a flyweight.
No. He's a jockey. His name is Curtis Hardapple.
Not Curtis.
Okay, well, Vernon Hardapple.
And then you find out that their car that they're driving turns out to be Vernon's car that was stolen. And Vernon sees it and he like chases after them as they're driving off, and he gets in front of them. And there's this really funny moment where he just runs at the car, jumps up in the air, lands on the hood butt first, then gets off the hood and bows at them and walks off.
You owe him a book too?
You can always drive over him.
So eventually Grady decides he's going to start working on his book. He's going to get his book finished because he finds out that Terry might be out of a job if he doesn't get this book finished. And then you find out not only has he been working on this book for the past 7 years, but it's over 2,000 pages long. One funny thing, and I'm not going to go into like a lot of detail, but you see the dead dog a lot in this movie as they try to figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of, so animal lovers, be warned. You do see a dog get killed and you see a dead dog's body. It's in a comical way.
The way they do it though, you're not like,
yeah,
you're not like overly sad. That probably makes me sound insane, but the way they do it in a very funny way.
Yeah, I mean, they established that the dog's very old and he's also blind.
Yes.
So he's probably going to die soon anyways, right?
Damn.
But another thing I like about this movie, which is not something that happens very often when I watch a movie, I felt like this movie was completely unpredictable, but not in a dumb way.
Yeah, I never knew what was going to happen next.
Right. And every scene, there's something crazy happening pretty much.
But it's not like overly crazy.
Right.
It's almost in like the realm of reality a little bit.
Yeah. So you said it's basically all
pretty much all Bob Dylan music. There's like some other stuff thrown in there, but it's pretty much all Bob Dylan music throughout.
Yeah, and it works.
Yeah.
It works very well for this movie.
It's got winter vibes.
Yeah.
Like the snow and everything. I'm a big believer in a Christmas movie. It doesn't have to be about Christmas. This is something you could throw on at Christmas. It's not set around Christmas, but it just the snow and the winter vibes. I'm a big believer in that. A lot of people, they're like, oh, it's got to be about Christmas.
The last several scenes of the movie are pretty crazy. A lot of crazy stuff happens. Some devastating stuff happens for Grady, but ultimately it's for the best for his character development and helping him realize what is truly important to him in life. And some things have to be shed away for him to realize that. That's all.
He's a piece of shit.
It kind of is a piece of shit, yeah. But you know what? Maybe after this,
he cheats on his wife. He impregnated a married woman. He gives his students drugs.
Damn, when you put it like that. What are kind of your final thoughts on Wonder Boys?
It's just solid.
Like
it's just it's not bad anywhere.
Yeah.
I wasn't blown away anywhere. It's just really good. It's like a solid 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's just good.
I agree with that.
This feels like a movie. It's like you buy a bookshelf.
Yeah.
And you're building a bookshelf and you throw on a movie in the background and you don't watch the movie, but it's there playing.
Yeah.
This is a furniture building movie.
With that being said, I believe Wonder Boys is going to be a keeper. We will not be giving this one away, but this is one that you should definitely be on the lookout for. You know, if you collect VHS or DVD, I'm sure it got a DVD release, probably has a Blu-ray release.
Oh, for sure. I would say so. So I'm glad we finally watched it because we bought this the very first day we ever went.
We did.
Looking for VHS tapes for VHS
We did.
Voyage.
This is an OG.
This has been sitting on the shelf forever, so I'm glad we finally watched it.
That is it for today's episode of VHS Voyage on Wonder Boys. I'm Matt.
I'm Devin.
We'll catch you guys next week.